The dawn is breaking, the light shines through. You're barely waking and tangled up in you. Yeah. I'm open your clothes when I follow you. I worry I won't see your face. Light up again, even the best fall down sometimes. Even the wrong words seem to end. Out of the doubt that fills my mind, somehow find you and I collide. I'm quiet, you make a first impression. I found I'm scared to know I'm always on your mind. And even the best fall down sometimes. Even the stars refuse to shine. Out of the back you fall in line. Somehow find you and I collide. Don't stop here. I've lost my place. I'm close behind. Sometimes, even the wrong words seem to end. Out of the doubt that fills your mind, finally find you and I collide. Finally find you and I collide. Finally find you and I collide.
Good morning. Oh, come on, you can do better. Good morning. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out in the slop, in the snow. It's good to have you here. My name is Sean. I was reminded twice to tell you that, and I forgot both first two services, so you get to know. I want to tell you something, a story from my past that's true. When I was growing up, my mom, she was a businesswoman. She was amazingly generous. People would come to her all the time and ask for a loan, and she would give them almost always without fail. When I got to be about, 15 or 16 in my mind, I remember somebody standing her up for money that they owed her, and I asked her, I said, Mom, how much have you loaned that's not been paid back to you over the years? And she gave me an estimation number in her head, and I said, why have I never known that? Why do you not go after them? Why? And she says, because I don't consider that they owe me that. She said, when I give it, I gave it to God, and I let go of it. If it comes back, great. If not, great. I loaned a tool to a friend this week. Seriously. I spent the next 2 days worrying about whether that tool was coming back. How come I haven't learned that yet? My mom knew something. I still don't seem to know. I think of what's owed to me. It's true emotionally as well. And Greg and Sherry are going to come in a little while and talk about that sense of debt that we often have in relationships. But before we do, we're going to take the opportunity to simply come before God. Do you not appreciate what these guys do every Sunday? Isn't it? It really is. It just gets better. As a little bit of a music critic, it gets better and better. But here's the thing. We're not coming to watch them, are we? We're coming to be before God, who deserves your adoration and praise this morning. So I want to encourage you, would you stand with me now, and let's focus on a Father as these guys lead us before him. Father, I pray now that you would grant us the insight and the opportunity to see you above everything else. This is the opportunity that we have not to be spectators in this moment, but to be participants as we worship you. So let us lift our voices and recognize who you are as a church together. In the name of your Son, I pray these things. Amen.
Chosen, I am free, I am living for eternity, free now forever. Pick me up, turn me around, put my feet on the solid ground. Yours now forever, yeah. And nothing's gonna hold me back. Oh, nothing's gonna hold me back. Nothing's gonna hold me back. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I'm alive to live for you. I'm alive to live for you. Amazing love, how can it be? You did everything for me. You did everything for me. Everything. I wash my sin and shame away. The slate is clean, a brand new day. Free now forever. Boldly I approach your throne to claim this crown. Through Christ my own, yours now forever, yeah. And nothing's gonna hold me back. Oh, nothing's gonna hold me back. Nothing's gonna hold me back. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I'm alive to live for you. I'm alive to live for you. Amazing love, how can it be? You did everything.
unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Let's sing together. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded with songs of deliverance. We've been I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
So this next song is going to be a little bit new for a lot of us. It's one of my favorites, so please feel free to sing along. It's a great song.
You say to us, seek your face. Our hearts reply, your face we see. Come teach us, Lord, reveal your ways. Anoint us for the greater things.
We've gathered with one thirst, hunger, here to drink of your glory, wonder, here to cry out, come and fill this place, come and fill this place, this place.
A single wish, your soul desire, to gaze upon your glory, God. We will
Thank you so much for worshiping with us. You can have a seat.
And Dave is half for each other.
I can't believe I get to marry him. We're perfectly compatible in every way.
Yeah, she just gets me, man.
Someone to talk to all night long.
Someone to talk to all night long.
Early morning jogs.
Sleeping in late.
We'll spend the holidays with my parents.
We'll spend the holidays with my parents.
We'll have one well-behaved daughter.
We'll have 4 or 5 little dudes running around.
He'll help me pay off my debt.
I should probably tell her about all my debt. Is that important? We'll share a bank account.
Obviously, we're gonna share a Facebook account.
Do I need to friend my in-laws?
Someone to do my laundry.
Someone to do my laundry.
Double income.
Stay-at-home dad.
Meal planning, of course.
Takeout.
The city.
The burbs.
Mission trip.
Ski trip.
Blue.
Red.
Cat.
Dog.
Fries.
Rings.
Potato.
Potato.
Minivan.
Motorcycle.
2 words. Finished basement.
2 words. Man cave.
He's so smart.
Do you think that birds wish that they had hands?
We're going to be so happy.
We'll be so happy. I'm gonna crush it at being a husband.
Seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hey, thanks for braving the snow today. For those of you who are watching us online at church321.com, glad that you're with us. We realize that on days like today, a lot more of you are choosing to sit at home and bring us up on the TV and watch in your pajamas, which is absolutely okay. Hey, I need to feel like I need to qualify Sherry's and my performance for what you're about to see. We are both sick as dogs, and we spent yesterday on the couch under blankets, not romantically in any way, shape, or form. It was a lot of coughing and hacking and get off my foot and all that kind of stuff. But so I say that to just ask for your patience this morning. We need a little grace from you, simply because we think that like the first 2 services, we feel like we've been very mechanical in what we've said, like we're just reading stuff off a page. But honestly, the Dayquil has kicked in, and I don't have a clue what I'm talking about this morning. So
fog.
if you could do that and just offer us a little grace. Some of you know that you've been there, haven't you? These last couple weeks, many of you have had this thing that we've got, and thank you for contributing to us. Well, hey, today is not just Super Sunday. It's also the first Sunday in February.
I've heard people say that.
Oh, come on. Can't you dance with me a little bit here?
I don't know if my
They have
knees
no
will hold
idea
up.
what to make of this right now. It's February. We all know February. Oh, never mind, honey. Just sit down. Never mind. That's an effort right there. It's February, which we all know is the love month, right? Because next week is Valentine's Day. Guys, you have 10 days. Just giving you a heads up. It's the love month. And typically every February, since we opened our doors back in 2014, every February we've done a series on marriage and relationships and love, sex, and dating, because we just feel like relationships at 321, they are absolutely the most important thing to us. And especially, we believe that the marriage relationships and families of 321 contribute greatly to the overall health of our church. And so that's why we feel the necessity to, again, talking about. Now, here's the great thing. Whether you're single again, engaged, married, dating, doesn't really matter. All this stuff that we're about to give you is really, really good stuff. It's really practical today. And here's something else I would say to you. We did a message 2 weeks ago to couples, so we're kind of coming back to some guidelines I need to give you. Because ladies, I get it, you're all psyched up, you all love this mushy stuff about relationships and that kind of stuff. But for us guys, we tend to view our relationships and marriages like you do your car. Like ladies, you don't want to work on your car, you just want your car to work. Or you do not get up in the morning looking forward to throwing up in the hood and duct taping something because you don't care. You just want your car to work. And that's how us guys think about most relationships. So when we walk in today and we see it's a marriage seminar kind of thing, we all kind of go, crap. Because here's what most guys think, if you're me. Maybe it's just me, and if so, that's fine. Most of us guys think, I'm going to just hear about how messed I am and what I need to fix in myself. That's what this is going to be. This is going to be 3 weeks of here's what you need to do better, here's what you need to do different, here's what's wrong with you that you need to fix. And again, for most of us guys, we kind of approach it going, well, here's the deal, honey. Unless our relationship is broken down on the side of the road with smoke pouring out from the hood Do we really need to work on it? I mean, things are just fine kind of the way they are. But fellas, I'm on your side. And we need to talk about this stuff because it's important. It's important to not just your own relationships, but it's important to the fabric of 321. So ladies, I'm going to give you some guidelines, repeat some guidelines that we gave you 2 weeks ago if this is going to work today. If you want him to hear what we're going to say, then ladies, no physical touch at any point during the message. Don't shoulder bump, elbow us. Don't do this on our shoulder because we know what you're really saying. What you're really saying is you need to listen to this part. This is really for you. So don't do that because I'm telling you, if you are like me, most guys are going to misinterpret it. We are also no eye contact of any kind because we know you think it's goo-goo eyes. All we hear was, see, I told you. So I'm just telling you, I think, am I the only guy who translates this way? Thank you. There's at least 3 of us in the room. There will be a support group that we're going to form after today. And then finally, ladies, this. No audible sounds at any point. No amens out loud, even though we love that. No coughing. No, just sit there in a bubble. And allow us guys to kind of take this in. Because like we said 2 weeks ago, as guys, we don't want to be told what to do, and we don't want to be told that we're wrong. But again, fellas, every now and then we are wrong, which means we need to talk about this today, okay? Because again, we think the strength of your marriage, the strength of your family contributes to the strength of our overall church community.
And this talk this morning is really for all of us, whether you are single, whether you're dating, if you're engaged, if you've been married for many, many years, or if you're still counting the hours. We think that all of us, no matter where we are in life, are going to get something out of this series. And if this is your first time with us today and we come to the end, you're like, well, wow, they really didn't talk a whole lot about the Bible. Come back next week because we are going to look at a profound and just impacting statement that is made in the New Testament specifically about relationships. So today is really an overview. It's really a preview of where we're going. I'm so sorry.
Just bear with us, kids. We've made it through 2. We can get through another.
So before we go any further, would you please pray with me? Jesus, we are grateful for who you are. We are grateful that we have the opportunity to come and to just enter into your presence, to experience you, to hear from you. And Jesus, I would just pray that we would not sit here this morning and think about what we hope he or she is hearing, but that we would sit before you with our palms up and our hearts open and simply say, Jesus, speak to me, teach me, show me, reveal to me. So God, I ask that you give us eyes to see, give us ears to hear, and a heart to embrace your truth. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, ladies, how many of you from the time you were a little girl began to dream and think about your wedding someday? You started watching the Say Yes to the Dress shows and all of those other things, The Bachelor, I mean, my heavens, all about thinking about who you're going to marry someday and thinking about your wedding. We grew up dreaming and thinking about the dress we would wear, the man that would someday enter our lives and sweep us off our feet into the beautiful home that we would live. And we dreamt about our families. And be honest, some of you even picked out the names of your children long before you were even old enough to date. We've had our dreams, we've had our desires, and we have our wishes of what we've envisioned our marriages and our relationships would look like.
Yeah, guys, how many of us did that? Like you got your G.I. Joe out? And in my day, it was the real G.I. Joes, like the big ones with like the fake hair, right, before they all went back. You got your G.I. Joe, then you went and you got your sister's Barbie, and we didn't do that. None of us guys did. Maybe some of you did, and if so, you're the exception, and I'll talk to you later. But us guys don't do that. I think what we envision is our single life plus one. And the great thing about being married is now I can kind of maintain my singleness, but I've got her to make my meals for me, and I've got her to do my laundry for me, and I've got her to make sure the house or the apartment is clean, and I can have sex whenever I want it. Right, guys? A little more response at the 11:30 than there was at the, I think most of the guys, do I respond? I don't know. She's sitting next to me. What's she going to do? We don't dream about this as guys, right? We don't think about this a whole lot. But how many of you, ladies and gentlemen, are still dreaming? A year into your relationship, you're in the marriage way, but you're still dreaming. Because in every relationship, how many?
Every.
How many? Every. Not just your marriage, not just your romantic relationships. This applies to your friendships too. In every relationship, we have expectations for that other person. Whether they're the friend, whether they're somebody dating, whether we're engaged to them, whether we're married to them. We have expectations. And expectations are simply this: the strong belief that something will happen or it's going to be the case in the future. I have a strong belief this is the way things are going to be, or it's someplace down the road, this is what's going to happen.
And when someone does not meet our expectations, there's hurt and anger and disappointment, there's breakups, and there's divorce. And that's not your fault, because before you got married, you had all your wishes and your hopes and your dreams, and you simply imagined what your marriage and what your relationship would be. And perhaps some of you went through premarital counseling, and there you talked about how you would divide up the jobs and what life would be like, and you would just so enjoy doing everything together all the time, and it was just going to be so great and so sweet and just eternal bliss, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute.
Yeah, you've never shoveled the driveway with me.
Yeah, whatever. Not because we only have one shovel. It's not.
It's all right. I don't think I've ever done much of the laundry, so.
No, you probably haven't.
I folded a sheet the other day.
Yeah, you did.
Plus, I'll talk about that in a minute. I know you're all looking forward to that part of the story.
But then you got married. And subconsciously, I mean, none of us go into this intentionally. We don't plan on this. But somewhere along the way in our marriage, we took all of our desires, we took all of our dreams, and we took all of our hopes. And we plunked them on the shoulders of our spouse. And all of a sudden, this hope and desire and these dreams, they turned into expectations, what we expect from the other person. They became things they owed us.
And there's a lot of things that contribute to our dreams, wishes, and expectations. I mean, culture's a big one. Right? When you think about the movies that you watch, the TV shows, ladies, all the chick flicks that are out there, right? That kind of contributes to your expectations of what you think your marriage is going to look like, what you want your marriage to look like. There's the music we listen to, be it Barry White or otherwise, right? The love songs that filter through our brains. And then there's the stuff that we look at, whether it's online, whether it's in books. All of those things in culture contribute to our sort of preconceived ideas about what we want our marriage to look like. However, the biggest contributor to our dreams, desires, and wishes when it comes to our marriages is what we've experienced. And for all of us, pretty much all of us in this room, that's based on the home that you grew up in. The majority of your dreams, wishes, and desires are focused not just, are based around what you grew up in, but who you grew up around. And so as a result, many of us are trying to do one of two things. Some of us are trying to avoid having the same kind of relationship we saw at home. So some of you have unknowingly made vows like this: I will never have a marriage like that, because I will never marry someone like that. I will never be like my mom. I will never be like my dad, right? I will never treat my kids the way that I've been treated. So we're trying to avoid something that we saw as we were growing up. And if we're not trying to avoid something, some of us grew up in what we thought were ideal homes, and we're trying to recreate it. So as we get into our relationships, we've made vows like, oh, I want my relationship to look just like that. I want my marriage to look just like that. I want to be treated just like that. I'm not trying to avoid anything. I've seen the model of a really good relationship, and I want to recreate that. And while that may not sound like a bad thing, that sounds pretty good, the problem is that even in those ideal situations where you're trying to recreate something you perceive as healthy and good, unfortunately, right in the middle of that sits you. Because all of that still centers on your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, what you want, what you don't want, what you've envisioned this relationship to look like. So then we get into this relationship, and I don't think it happens often when we're dating, because that's still la la land for most people. You can just tell the people that have been like dating, they just make you sick most of the time. Like, I love you all, but like you're still, they can't do anything wrong. It's all great. And in fact, we will never marry a couple. We sit through premarital, we'll ask them, I need to know the last time you had a fight that said, I can't stand him. If you've not come to that point, we will not do your wedding, because you have not braced reality yet. So maybe it was while you're dating, although I doubt it. I doubt it happened when you were engaged, because most of the time when you're sitting as a premarital, it's still, oh, it's so great. And we're like, yeah, right, whatever. Probably after you're married. Not long after you're married, here's what you'll eventually do. You'll go back to your hopes, dreams, wishes, and desires. You're going to package all of them together, and you're going to hand them to her or him, and you're going to go, here, honey, make my dreams come true. This is your responsibility, because this is what I wanted my future to look like. So now I need you to play along. I need you to come through for me.
And that's when a lot of the tension and a lot of conflict develops. Because this, bottom line here, none of us were created or intended to be able to be the full fulfillment of every single thing of another person. It's not your place. You can't do it. It is an impossibility. But we were not designed to be the sole source of every ounce of life fulfillment for our partner. Oh yeah, okay.
You're
So
right.
this turns in when we take our wishes and our hopes and our dreams and we throw them on the shoulders of our spouse, they begin to feel like an expectation. Because to them, it's no longer about your hopes, your wishes, and your dreams. It's a weight. It's a burden. It can feel like if I don't live up to what you expect, I have failed. And that, again, creates such conflict, because who wants to be a disappointment? Who wants to wake up in the morning and think, oh, my word, he or she is just constantly disappointed with me because I can't measure up to what they are hoping. So even in the best of relationships, the best fall down sometime. Even the wrong words seem to rhyme. And out of the doubt that fills my mind, I somehow find you and I
Still collide.
And perhaps you have felt this way, or maybe you feel this way. Because anytime we attempt to avoid or to recreate anything from the past, it transforms hopes, dreams, and desires into expectations. And when that happens, there's a few things that we may choose to do. And the first is really an extreme, but we leave. We leave. You get tired of trying to measure up. You get tired of the demands, and you just get tired and say, I can't do this. I cannot meet your every expectation. I am tired of trying. I can't do it. This is not what I expected. And so you leave. You decide he wasn't a good husband or she wasn't a good wife. And really, what does that mean? It simply means you had an expectation of what a good husband is and an expectation of what a good wife is. And he's not it. She's not it. And so you take all your hopes, all your dreams, and all of your desires, and you go find someone else to dump them on. And all of a sudden, you find that your second marriage is a lot like your first. Because again, at the end of the day, at the center of all of your broken relationships, it's you. You are the one thing that all of your relationships have in common.
So for a lot of us, that seems a little extreme, leaving. Maybe again, some of you have made this unknowingly. You made this vow, like I will never leave. Or we're in it, we're going to gut it out for the sake of the marriage. So instead of deciding you can't leave, that's not an option for you. You just decide you're going to win. Right? I'm going to win. And we've said from the beginning that when the words win and lose make their way into your relationship, that's the time to get counseling. That's the time to start talking with somebody. And so you decide you're going to win. And we leverage what pastor and author Andy Stanley calls the 4 C's of an unsatisfying and dysfunctional relationship. So if you would like to have today an unsatisfying and dysfunctional relationship, here's what you need to do. It's real simple. 4 C's. You convince, you convict, you control, and you coerce. That's how you win in your relationship. You convict them that the way they do things is the wrong way. Like that's just, or you convince them, right? That's not the way to do things. That may have been how things happened in your home growing up, but that's not how we did things in my home. And I realize you think that's the right way, but it's not. You're wrong. I'm right. I have the right way to do things. I will convince you that I know the right way to do things. And, by the way, you'll become so much happier if you just try and be a little bit more like me. Because we are all so much happier when we're desperately trying to be something and someone we have not been created to be, aren't we? We are just so much happier when we try to conform ourselves to the expectations and images somebody else has for us. So you convince them that their way is wrong, and then you convict them. And this is really easy. You just put them on a guilt trip. Like, that is so stupid. Why in the world would you do it that way? Oh, that is completely asinine. I would never do things like that. You should do things the way I do, because that's just the wrong way you do it. So you convict them, make them feel really guilty about who they are, who they've been created to be, and thus you gain control. And in your control, you coerce them to be everything you want them to be, or to be everything you need them to be for you. And at the end of the day, what's really, really great is you win. Yay! So you're really happy because you got your way. But you're confused and puzzled because I don't understand why she's not happy. I don't understand why this isn't working for her. Right. Because you're getting your dreams fulfilled. And not only that, you got somebody else playing along right now because your way was the right way.
The third response, and it's very opposite of winning, of who wins. The third response is we conform. And to conform simply means that I basically give up who I am and my personality, things that make me me, to conform to be what I think is expected of me. And the reason that we do this, is because we are trying to compensate for someone who does not love us. We do this to compensate for someone that will not accept us as we are. So we abandon who we are in order to embrace what makes the other person happy, regardless of whether it works for us. And we basically conform. We become someone that we're not. It really works for the person who wins, and it somewhat works for the person who conforms, because there becomes a level of peace. Things calm down. Maybe the tension that was really high starts to lessen.
Yep.
But as long as she's happy, I'll just deal with it. As long as he's happy, I'll just deal with it. It's not my dream. Certainly not what I had ever hoped or expected or what I'd wished for. But again, there's a level of peace, so I'll just put up with it. I will just deal with it. But at the end of the day, when somebody is working hard to become someone that they are not, it's extremely stressful, and you will break down, whether you break down physically or emotionally. And the person, we lose respect for their partner, and their partner loses respect for you. So conforming to become someone and something that you are not creates a lot of personal stress and a lot of tension, because you were never made to be someone that you were not created to be. You were never created and made to be like someone else, like him or like her. And again, you will break down, whether emotionally or physically. So that's conforming. And the fourth option is we compromise. And this is what you do to stay together. Maybe a lot of you saw this within your own homes, your parents, and they weren't necessarily happy. They just got along with things that they needed to do in order just to exist with one another. Because a compromised marriage is you do your part and I do my part. And we're both keeping score. I'm watching to see how often you do or what you're not doing. It's kind of more like a contract between the husband and the wife. And this kind of relationship has a very low level of trust. And where there is a very low level of trust, there is a very low level of intimacy. And here's why. Because you cannot be intimate with anyone that you are not willing and able to fully give yourself to. And you will not fully give yourself to someone you do not trust.
All right, so here's bonus material for you, and you all know I love talking about this stuff. Here, I'm going to give you right now the secret to great sex. Yeah! We have one person, Bob. I tell you, most people don't know how do I feel about that? Talking about this in church, is this right? God created it. I'm all for it. So I'm going to give you, especially you guys who are single, you want to know the secret to great sex in a marriage relationship. Here it is. It has nothing to do with anything physical. It has nothing. Wait a minute. Nope, I'm telling you. The mechanics of sex you can have, but the secret to a great sex relationship in your marriage has nothing to do with sex or anything physical. It has everything to do with intimacy. And while, guys, you may just be turned on by looking at her, that's not the way that she works. You're ready in a moment. That's not her. In our own relationship in marriage, the time Sherry's most affectionate is when I've done something for her, when she feels connected to me. Not just, oh, I guess we should. That's just, nobody, that's not the secret. The secret is intimacy. It's a secret to great sex. It's a secret, actually, in any great relationship. But here's the problem. Intimacy is always directly tied to trust. And like Sherry said, you will never fully give yourself to somebody that you don't trust. All right, that was bonus material. You just get that for free because I love talking about it. All right, here's the other issue with a compromised relationship, like Sherry talked about. In a compromised marriage or relationship, the problem is, even though it sounds good, you're committed to the wrong thing. How many of you have heard, or maybe you've even said these words, things are really tough, we're not getting along right now, but I'm committed to my marriage. I am committed. And I know that sounds like the right thing to say. You know, that sounds really good, and everybody applauds you like, oh, that's so really great, you're putting up with him. I'm committed to my marriage. Here's the problem. Listen, nobody marries a relationship. You didn't date a relationship. You didn't get engaged to a relationship. You dated, and you fell in love, and you got engaged to a real, live, flesh and blood breathing person. But the problem is when you pull back from that and you kind of resort to, well, you know, it's tough. I'm committed to my marriage. Did you hear what you said? You just put yourself back at the center of the equation. I'm committed to my marriage. I'm committed to my future. I'm going to make my marriage work. It is all about me. It's all about my reputation because I don't want our kids growing up in separate homes. I know it sounds like the right thing to say, but you still made you the center of your own relational universe. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the relationship and your part in it. And here's the problem. That's not a biblical marriage. Nowhere. Where? Where? Nowhere. Go home and Google it. Do your own Bible study today. Nowhere in the Bible are you commanded to be committed to a relationship. We're commanded to be committed to a person. That's what biblical marriage looks like. Like Sherry said, but in a compromised marriage, what happens is it becomes this, I will if you will, and if you don't, I'm not going to. And that looks far more like a contract than the covenant that God has intended for marriage to be.
So what if he told you there was another option? You don't have to conquer, you don't have to win, you don't have to conform, and you don't have to compromise. And that's what we want to talk about next week. So before we go there, because obviously that's next week, in the time that remains, what we want to do is just give you a preview of where we are going to be going. So in all relationships, expectations on any level create a debt-debtor relationship. The moment that I expect you to now make all of my dreams come true, I start to live under the assumption that you owe me. You owe me affection. You owe me attention. You owe me kids. You owe me sufficient time to spend with those kids. You owe me to keep your clothes picked up off the floor. You owe it to me to take care of and pay the bills. See, you owe it to me because that's what you are supposed to do. That's what my dad did. That's what my mom did. That's what good husbands do. That's what good wives are supposed to do.
So let me ask you a question. How much gratitude and appreciation do you show to somebody who's just doing what they're supposed to do? I mean, just think about it in your average work week. How often does your boss come up and just thank you, pour out gratitude over you because you're doing your job? Usually it's not very much. We don't typically show a lot of gratefulness and thankfulness to somebody else for just doing what we expect them to do. And here's where it gets kind of goofy in our relationships, because you've all had this happen if you've been married for any length of time. In all of our relationships, we fall into routine. Like in your marriage, there are certain things that she does, there are certain things that you do. Whether you've talked about them ahead of time or not, they're just these tasks and jobs that are her responsibility, that are my responsibility for what we need to do to make the home work, right? Yes. This is not true in your home? Yes. There are certain things you do. There's certain things that he or she does. You have to get these done in order for the home to work. And that's not a bad thing. Listen, everybody falls into those routines. We have fallen into those routines, whether we've talked about them or not. It will be expected of me today that it's my job to shovel the driveway. It's my job to shovel the walkway. It's my job to mow. We've never maybe talked about those things. It's just the routine that we've fallen into. You all have your own routines of things you expect. So here's the question again. How much gratitude do you show to your spouse when they're just doing what you expect them to do? Yesterday, because we were getting ready for this marriage, I decided to do this message. We were getting ready for this marriage. Oy. That's the Dayquil speaking. As we were getting ready, I thought, well, I need to practice this. And I was hoping she wasn't like, you're just doing that because the message is telling you to and you want to have a great illustration for tomorrow morning. Yesterday was laundry day at our place, which is always chaos because, number one, our children, our boys, never get their laundry down where it's supposed to be, which then leads them to complaining about what didn't get washed because they didn't get it down the hoop to begin with. Anyways, it's laundry day, and so Sherry comes up with this mound of clothing. I wouldn't be able to tell you whose shirt belongs to who, what. Just throw it all in their room and let them figure it out. But I decided, I'm getting ready for today. I don't want to just come to expect this from her. I said to Sherry, I picked up a fat towel and I folded it. Because, listen, we all know, here's one of the problems in marriage. There's a right way and wrong way to do it. Ladies, I know you long for help, but the minute we put that in the dishwasher the wrong way, we will hear about it because there's an expectation. The plates go with a little thing that I don't even get it. So I decided yesterday I'm going to risk it. I'm going to fold a towel. And then I just said to Sherry, thank you.
And I fainted.
She did. She passed. That might have been the
you
NyQuil
are.
at
He's.
that point.
You have always been.
Well, that's because I'm
very,
OCD, compulsive, and
no,
I
but you
wanna
are
know
very
what's right.
verbal, and I really
am.
appreciate that. You are. I need to be more so. I mean, I didn't grow up in a verbal home, so
Not going to speak that one right
we
now.
spend
So
time
anyways,
together, but we don't
I
say
said,
much.
thank you.
Yeah.
So here's one little challenge I would give to you this morning, married couples especially. Express gratitude this week for something you expect. You might have to force yourself to do it because you don't think about it, right? Express gratitude this week for something that you have come to expect from her, something you've come to expect from him, because that's your routine. That's what he does. That's what she does. This week, married couples, shock them to know, say thank you for doing something that you've come to expect, because gratitude is always an indication that I'm not placing my expectations on you.
And I think that is a good test. If you're sitting there going, I don't think I've placed a lot of expectations on him or her, then just stop and think for a moment. When was the last time you said thank you? Okay.
It got lodged right there. Sorry, that just grossed everybody else out.
Yeah, okay.
Too many years in student ministry, so speaking what's real.
So the other thing about this whole debt-debtor relationship is that it eliminates the possibility of unconditional love. Because love is a gift. Love is a gift. And when everything is expected, it does not give a lot of freedom to receive and to give. And this is why you will never receive a personal letter with a gift card from the gas company. Dear Mrs. Howder, thank you so much for their monthly payment. We have appreciated your payment so much that we have included this gift card for you and your family to go out to dinner with our gratitude. Not going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. See, that is a contract. Your payment is an expectation. When they hooked up the gas to your home, you made an agreement that you will pay every month the bill that is due. The only time you will get personal attention from the gas company is when? Don't pay your payments. And if you miss enough, not only will you get a letter, but you'll get a phone call. You will get personal attention. It's really, really awesome. But what's really sad is that some of you feel that way in your own marriage. Because as long as you do everything right, there's this level of peace. But the minute you don't do something that was expected or what you're supposed to do, there's not a whole lot of love. You mess up. You don't do what you said you would do. And you do get personalized attention. It's usually negative attention, but it is personal. You don't get credit, and you certainly don't feel real loved.
All right, so here's what we're not saying. I'm not saying don't dream. Girls, I'm not saying don't, say yes to the dress, and guys, don't get your G.I. Joes out, and that's not going to happen anyways. But I'm not going to say don't have your dreams, hopes, wishes, and desires. In fact, just the opposite. You need to have your dreams, hopes, wishes, and desires. To kind of pretend they're not there, to kind of repress them or pretend they don't exist is not healthy. and it's not helpful. Here's what I am saying. God has given you some of the dreams, wishes, and desires that you have. Like God has wired every one of us up to be loved. God has wired every one of us up to long for acceptance. God has created, especially you guys, He's created you to be respected. He's created us for companionship. I love this one. God has designed you for sex. Can I get an amen? Absolutely. God has designed you for sex as it relates to intimacy within a marriage. God has designed you for that. He has wired you up to feel understood and to feel appreciated. God has designed you to be desired. Listen, all of those hopes, wishes, and desires are really, really good. God has given them, so don't give up on those.
Absolutely. What we are challenging you to do is not to dump them on the spouse. That's
Right.
all we're trying to encourage us to do. It is not their responsibility to bear and take all of our wishes, dreams, and desire and to make them happen. So how do we do that? And that is the challenge. So let me ask you a question that I want you to ask yourself. What do I feel is owed to me? And you got to be honest with this. Think about, you got that relationship, that friendship, your husband, your wife. What do they owe you? What do they owe you? And happy couples know that the answer to that question is nothing. It's nothing. We are to live our relationship with one another understanding that we each owe each other everything. We owe each other everything, and we are to expect nothing in return.
All right, so let me drop a little Jesus on you today, right? Because this all sounds really good, and it sounds like something you'd hear off of Dr. Phil. So I want to bring Jesus into this moment because he talks a lot about this. We're going to talk more specifically in Scripture next week. But there's this moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the life of Jesus. It's in the last minutes of his life. He's getting ready. In just a moment, he's going to leave his best friends and followers. He's going to go out to a garden. He will be betrayed. He'll be arrested, go through 6 trials, and eventually be crucified. He sits with his closest friends and followers, the guys who spent the last 3 years with him. He sits around a table with them at Passover because they're Jewish, right? And Jesus looks into the eyes of these 11, because one is already left. And he looks into their eyes and says, all right, boys, I understand because we're all Jewish, right? I understand. You have lived growing up, living and trying to live out 630 plus rules, laws, and regulations. Like that has been your life as a Jew. Adhering to 630 plus rules, laws, commands, and obligations. Because I'm God, I'm going to reduce it down to 1. I'm going to reduce all 630 down to 1 command. And as we sit here at this Passover, in this moment where last words are crucially important, here's the one thing I want you to remember above everything else. Here's what he says. Love each other. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, because that's the bar high, you should love each other. In fact, it is your theology that will prove to the world that you're my followers. It's your religion that will prove to the world that, what's it say? You're what? Love. You're what? So the way we love other people demonstrates whether we're followers of Jesus. Is that what he's saying? Yeah. Guys, if you forget everything else, because I know religion is sort of your backbone, that's kind of how you've grown up, it's in your DNA. What you need to remember today is this. Above everything else, love each other. It'll prove to everybody out there that you're my followers. And then Jesus went and demonstrated his love for us by dying on the cross. Paul would come on the scene a couple years later. Paul was a follower of Jesus who spent the first half of his life beating up the church. The second part of his life, he became the biggest promoter of the church. But he knew we would forget about this. And by the way, church, 321, we forget about this today. We forget about this directive. We still want to base our following of Jesus on our theology, on our religion, how much I know over more than what you know, and the fact that I'm elected and you're not. And Jesus says that's not it. And Paul knew our default would be that. So Paul had to write the church and remind them of Jesus' words. And here's what he writes to us today in Ephesians. Paul summed it up this way. Imitate God in half of the things that you do. Imitate God when you go to church. Imitate God when you're in life group. Imitate God in what?
Everything.
In what?
Everything.
Everything? Yeah. Imitate God in everything you do, and here's how you do it. Live a life filled with theology. Live a moral life. Live a life filled with love. See, Paul knew we would forget. He had to come back and reiterate this to us. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Jesus. What did that look like? He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us. This isn't the first time we've talked about this passage here at 321. We've talked about that John passage repeatedly. You know why? Because we forget. We can quickly make church about us, about how good I am, doing the things I should do, not doing the things I shouldn't do. So because we forget, a couple months ago, we actually made up wristbands to remind ourselves of the one question that we need to ask ourselves. And if you would like one of these, they're in the buckets on the way to the cafe today. You'll see a bucket on the shelf right by the women's room. Grab one of these. You know why? Because you'll forget. You'll forget to ask yourself this one question that Jesus would have you ask today. What does love require of me? But I know. What does love require? But yeah, I know. But what does love require? You don't know him. I know, but I know you. What does love require? See, I know what Jesus should have done for me, and I know what he did. What does love require of me? That's this morning's big idea. It's been our big idea several times in several of our messages. You know why? Because we forget. You'll forget. Grab a wristband today. And then here's something I would like you to do practically. Don't do this with your spouse. You need to find some alone time. Married couples, carve out some time for yourself. I want you to get a piece of paper, or if you're more tech savvy, pick up notes on your iPhone. I want you to ask that question Sherry just wrote down. What do they owe me? And by the way, the longer you've been married, the more you feel is owed to you. Guys, I need you to be really, really honest with yourself. Ladies, I need you to be really honest with yourself. I need you to get a piece of paper out and write across the top, what do I feel is owed to me? And then make your list. Be honest with yourself. Make your list. Most of it's going to be based on your disappointments. Then when you get done with your list, I want you to write out one more question. I want you to look at the wristband you picked up this morning. At the bottom, I want you to ask yourself this question. What does love require of me? In light of my list, what does love require from me?
See, following Jesus is not about us getting what we deserve. In fact, the truth is when we compare ourselves in light of who Jesus is and who God is, you and I deserve diddly jack squat, nothing. If anything, we just deserve his wrath. We deserve to be obliterated. He is holy, he is perfect, and we are so not. And yet, God, out of his incredible love for us, chooses to pour out, to lavish salvation, forgiveness, grace, and mercy. And as I humble myself before my Heavenly Father and receive from him what he so generously chooses to give to me, that is the posture that I need to come to my spouse. To freely give what God has so freely given to me, and to not withhold that, what he has so freely given to me. It's through humility, it's through being humble with one another, but it starts first and foremost with me humbling myself before my Heavenly Father. And this is what happy couples know. This is what they practice, and this is how they live. So until next week, we have 2 questions. Ask yourself, spend some time, really pour over this question. What is owed me? What does he owe me? What does she owe me? And then, what does love require of me? And the one thing we would like you to do, say thank you. If you make it home today, safe and sound, and whatever is happening, can't see through the curtains, I don't know if it's still snowing, you make it home safe and sound. Whoever drove that car, would you say thank you? If that's the only thing you can be thankful for today, say thank you.
Whoever shovels the driveway.
Or who shovels the driveway. Whatever, say thank you. Got it?
No.
No.
It's get it. See, they know. It's get it.
Whatever.
See, that's how it goes. I've trained them really, really well. It's get it, got it, good.
I don't feel well. Okay.
Correct. You're done.
Well, I'm done.
You're done.
Would you pray with me, please? Jesus, we are very grateful. Grateful for who you are, grateful for your incredible patience and love with us. And Father, we just want to take a moment just to come before you and have the courage to say, just examine my heart. For some of us, we sit here today in disappointment and hurt and broken promises. It just, maybe we're really struggling in our relationships and our marriages. And maybe the first place we need to start is before you. Maybe we're blaming you for where things are. We're blaming you for how things ended. We are blaming you for taking our hopes and dreams and dashing them to the ground. And yet, God, we just want to acknowledge this morning that you are God and we are not. Would you just draw us to your heart to repent, to receive your forgiveness, and to allow you just to speak ever so sweetly and so gently into our ear. And Lord, for any of us that are struggling in our marriages, as we are looking at you owe me, you owe me, you owe me, that God, we would be willing to humble ourselves before him or before her, and to take that first step to say, forgive me, please. Any expectation we are throwing on the other person, that God, we would be willing to take it off their shoulders. And that's going to take a huge, huge amount of courage. Would you give that to us? And if we're not ready to take that step, would you just lead us in asking this question, what is owed me and what does love require? Because Jesus, your love required your death. And you willingly laid your life down for us. May we be willing to do whatever it takes to love our spouse the way you love us. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to...
Oh, can you relate to that? Have you had any fights this week or disagreements that just make no sense to you at all? All right. Most of us have some level of ability to understand that scenario. You know what? When you come in on Sunday mornings, as I talked about earlier this morning, it's basically a spectator thing. You get to sit and watch. But we have other opportunities here at the church, and I want to tell you about a couple of them. Firstly, next Sunday night, at 6 o'clock here, we're going to start a 3-week series. This is your chance to go a little deeper than what we have done this morning. It's going to require a little bit from you. It is a participatory seminar. It's not just someone talking the whole time. You get a chance to be directly involved. That can be a little intimidating for you, but we'd still like you to come out and just push yourself a little bit. And if really you don't feel like that, we'll let you just be an observer. Next Sunday night, we're starting a series called Healing Hidden Hurts, the Marriage Edition. And what it's really about is an opportunity to understand the issue is never the issue. It's an opportunity for you to go beyond what you fight about and realize that there's more deeper heart issues buried underneath that all. Someone came up to me last week and said, hey, I'm not married. I'd love to come get the concepts, but I really don't want to be a part of that. Hey, it's not just about marriage. If you've ever been in, are presently in, or dreamed of being in an emotionally intimate relationship, you'll want to participate in this. You'll want to understand, because it's principles that apply in any scenario with someone that you want to have an intimacy relationship with. So that's next Sunday night for 3 weeks running. Appreciate it. I think you'll be glad you came out. A couple other things we want to tell you about. Big Stuff is a student ministries event that happens this summer where in Florida? There you go. So our youth have been going to it for the last couple of years. It is a life-changing experience. Many of them come back and say, just unbelievable what happened. Parents, you need to understand what's going on. And so there is a meeting that's happening now, as soon as I get done talking, so that you can find out what it costs, what the details are, what the plans are, how we're working toward it. And so you can stay here. Is this where it's going to be? Anyway, you'll know. There's a meeting coming up right now that'll tell you all about it. So if you want to find out, be there for that. Finally, Bible study. Women, there's an opportunity for you on Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning, Saturdays at 9:30. Choose the one you want. There's materials that are available at the local Bible bookstore. You can find out more about it at the Information Center. It's a chance to connect with other women and to go deeper in the Word, not just be a spectator. So check that out as you go. Finally, this morning, Sylvania Area Family Services is a community organization that we partner with because it's an opportunity for you to figure out how to love others. Last fall, we did a dinner for everybody. It was a great success. We're doing that again, but we need you to be involved. What does love require of you? Here's a chance to answer that question, and that is going to actually be taking place on March 1st. You're going to hear more about that, and there's a sign-up. Go to the Information Center, find out what you need to find out, but listen for more information coming up. If you're visiting here this morning, chances are good that you like to sneak in, find a corner where you can just observe. Good for you. We hope you felt that freedom. But we also would like to introduce ourselves to you as a family, and one of the best first steps to do that, at the Information Center to my left, you can go in, you can fill out an innocuous card that tells us a little bit about you and tells us anything that you need. Do you need prayer? Do you need any other things? We'd love to know about it. We'd love to connect with you. And if you do, we'll give you a little gift just as a way of saying thank you for coming. If you are a regular, you probably give your gifts and offerings. You notice we don't do that here in the service, but we do that online primarily. But a lot of people like me who are lazy and don't want to do that, there's 2 little boxes here, and on your way out, you can just drop them in there. And finally, as we were instructed this morning, can we say thank you to Greg and Sherry for just pushing through 3 services? They did this. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. Have a great week. See you next week.